Hello again, everyone. I am John Brockway, and thanks for joining me once again. This is video blog post number 5. Let's jump right into the action. Well, of course, the biggest story of the week is the Super Bowl and your Super Bowl 46 champion New York Football Giants defeating the New England Patriots 21-17. Really a great game. A game that was broken up into many different parts. The Giants controlled the beginning of the game, led 9-0 after the first quarter. Of course, got the unusual score via the safety, the questionable call. Tom Brady throwing the ball out of the end zone, throwing it over the middle, and they called intentional grounding. I thought that could have gone either way, but I guess with the rule being that with Justin Tuck barreling down on Tom Brady, it seemed like the correct call because there really was nobody in the vicinity. So the Giants got up to the fast start, as I said. Then the Patriots controlled the second quarter, getting 10 points and holding the Giants scoreless. Had a 10-9 halftime lead. They were able to stretch that in the second half to 17-9. Had a chance to make it a two-score game and really put it away, but the Giants come up with some big defensive plays. Got back in the game. Eventually, Eli Manning goes down the field to win it towards the end of the game, and then the Giants defense stopped Tom Brady and the Patriots offense, who had the ball with under a minute to go. So the Giants pull out the win 21-17. I would say I'm not so much surprised that the Giants won because I really thought it was going to be a close game. I told you, if you remember, I said that I thought it was going to be a lower scoring game because these teams tend to play lower scoring games. I was shocked that the over-under line was 54.5, originally 55.5. The total ended up only being 38. So I was surprised not that the Giants won. Tom Brady didn't play a great game. That was a little bit surprising because he didn't play well in the AFC Championship game either. He's traditionally played well in big games, especially the Super Bowl, whether or not they've won or not. And now I think losing for a second Super Bowl in a row they played in, I think really takes a little bit of the mystique away from Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. That Patriots dynasty that was at the beginning of the 2000s. It's definitely got a little tarnish on it now. It had a little bit of tarnish after Spygate, and now losing two Super Bowls. They were 10-0. Brady and Belichick, as a tandem, were 10-0 to start their playoff careers together, and now they're 6-6 in their last 12 games. So I think the Patriots, they really need to do something about their defense. They need to get some young guys in there that could produce better than some of the guys they've had. They need a deep threat at the receiver positions. They don't always have to go to the tight ends. Eli Manning, what can you say? He had another game-winning drive. Eli, answered all the questions about being elite. He definitely is one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Coming down the field the way he did, taking the Giants down the field to win the game and leaving less than a minute on the clock for the Patriots offense. Time and time again, Eli did it this year. He's now 8-1 in the postseason in road or neutral site games. Of course, Super Bowls are neutral site games. So what can you say? Eli, great job, phenomenal season, and of course to win it in Peyton's building, or at least for the time being Peyton's building, and defeating Tom Brady for the second time. Great job and congratulations to the New York Giants. We'll look forward to the offseason and the NFL draft and some of the upcoming video blogs. Let's move along to college basketball now, and what a season we're having right now. We've talked about it the last few weeks, so we're not going to get into it too much. How spread out the good teams are this year. There's no really dominant conference. Historically, it's been the Big East, but of course the Big East really down this year. Some of the traditional powers like Pittsburgh, Villanova, UConn, Louisville, not really having solid seasons. Only a few ranked teams. Syracuse a cut above the rest in the Big East, although they've got the tougher part of their schedule still to come. This week we saw a little bit of a change this past week as the mid-major teams have really been dominating. Murray State got a couple of close calls this week. UNLV was upset. Creighton's lost a few times now. So some of these mid-major teams starting to show little cracks, and maybe the pressure getting close to the postseason, maybe that's starting to wear on them, or maybe it's just boredom from dominating teams by 40 points every night. So it's hard to say, but still, I think that some of these non-power conference teams are going to be heard from just as they have been the past few seasons. Last year, of course, Butler and VCU both getting to the Final Four. Butler going to the national championship game, and also the year before they did. So I think it's very spread out again this year. The Big Ten may end up getting the most teams in. They may get 8, possibly even 9 teams in. I think more likely 8 though. The SEC, Kentucky, they're just roaring over everybody right now. Had a dominant win over Florida the other night. So I think the SEC is pretty good. The Big East is it's okay, but not the level it's been in previous years. The Big Ten is solid. The Pac-12 is just a disaster. You couldn't even. I don't think you could pick one team out of the Pac-12 that would even be a top 4 team in any of the other power conferences. The ACC, it's usually Duke and North Carolina. Florida State has beaten both of them, so Florida State making a push towards the top of that conference this year. This week, it was rivalry week. Some great games. You got Kansas playing Baylor, Syracuse, Georgetown, Duke, North Carolina. So we're really going to find out who's at the top of some of these conferences. Baylor and Kansas. Kansas has looked great against some tougher opponents and played not so well against some lesser opponents. And Baylor kind of the same. So should be a great game between the two. The Big 12, also Iowa State's been having a surprising year, although they suffered a defeat earlier this week. So the Big 12 is a solid conference. There's a lot of solid conferences, as I said. A lot of good teams spread out. No dominant conference this season. Should make for an interesting and fun postseason. Let's talk about the NBA right now. We've talked about the season being so dramatically different than past seasons. A lot of lower scoring games, a lot of younger teams really excelling. Although some of the older teams like Dallas and the Celtics, the Lakers starting to play better than they did at least at the beginning of the season. I still wouldn't make any of them the favorites. But you could see that the NBA schedule being so tight with the games being so close together, it's really starting to have an impact on a lot of even some of the young guys. The NBA really lost a lot of good players this past week due to injuries, some more serious than others. Carmelo Anthony's going to be out for at least a week, possibly 2. Derrick Rose left the game with some back spasms, so even some of these younger guys are facing some injury issues because of the schedule that they may not face otherwise. The Clippers lose Chauncey Billups to a torn Achilles. He's out for the season. Danilo Gallinari's out for at least a month for the Nuggets with a foot injury. So a lot of guys going down. It's really an interesting NBA season. The playoffs can't get here soon enough. I can't believe it's almost the All-Star break already. There's a lot of questions of what's going to go down with Dwight Howard of the Orlando Magic. Is he going to get traded? Is he not? I've stated before, I think he probably will at this point, especially with Orlando struggling as of late. I think Dwight his situation is starting to wear a little bit thin on his teammates, so I think Orlando is going to try to get the best package they can, and eventually we'll have to deal him. But it won't be till after the All-Star break and probably just before the trade deadline, so probably the second week of March, Dwight Howard will end up getting traded. But, keep watching the NBA. It's still worth watching, even though there's been some really bad games. There's still been some exciting games. I know Golden State and Oklahoma City just played a really exciting back and forth game. So a lot of new stars being emerging this year. So watch the NBA and get ready so you can focus for the playoffs because it's gonna be a speed test all the way to the postseason. All right, let's talk a little bit about Major League Baseball. Yes, baseball season right around the corner. Spring training not too far away. Pitchers and catchers going to report to camps some as early as this coming weekend. We're going to do a division by division breakdown. We're going to start with the American League East this week, and next week we'll move to the American League Central. The American League East, or as most people like to call it, the Yankees and Red Sox division, should be a little bit more interesting this year because neither the Yankees or Red Sox made major offseason moves. They had quieter off seasons. Of course, the last few seasons they've been getting pretty much anybody they wanted. So this year they kind of were a little under the radar. So it'll be interesting to see. The Red Sox, I think, still need to have some upgrades and still have a lot of questions in their pitching rotation and even in their bullpen as well. The Yankees definitely shored up their pitching rotation by getting Hiroki Kuroda and making the trade for Pineda from Seattle. So those are about the biggest moves the Yankees were able to make. Still might add a DH, maybe Raul Ibanez, maybe bring back either Johnny Damon or Hideki Matsui. So that's what it looks like for the Yankees and the Red Sox. The Yankees, I would say, are the stronger of the two teams right now. But don't forget about the Tampa Bay Rays. There's no way you can forget about them. They have probably the best pitching in the American League, possibly even in baseball. They have such great depth. They brought back Carlos Pena to boost up the offense and give them a little bit more power from the left side. I expect them to even trade one of their young starters, maybe Jeff Neiman or Wade Davis, and possibly get another impact bat for their lineup. Then you've got the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays should be quite a competitive team this year. They've been right around 500 the last few seasons. I think Toronto will be above 500 this year, which is going to force the other three teams we already mentioned to have a little bit lower record in wins. But I think Toronto will be competitive this year. I think they've got some pretty good pitching. Their lineup is dynamic with guys like Bautista, of course, and then some young guys like Brett Laurie and some of the other players they've got, Adam Lind, some of their young position players. So I think Toronto will be competitive. Baltimore, I mean, they're trying to get back to the greatness of where they were in the mid-'90s. It's just not happening. They brought in Buck Showalter. He had a great start 2 seasons ago when he came in mid-season. Really had a rough year last year. Their pitching, their young pitching really didn't develop the way they hoped. They just traded away Jeremy Guthrie. So Baltimore, again, they've got some offense, but it really comes down to their young pitching. I like right now the Yankees to win the division. I like Tampa Bay to finish second. The Red Sox, as they're currently constituted, I think will finish third. And then we'll go Toronto fourth and Baltimore fifth. But don't be surprised if Toronto pushes the Red Sox for third in the division. I think the possibility of adding a second wild card to each league this year, it's going to happen one way or the other. It may not be this year, maybe next season. They're trying to get it done for this year. Commissioner Selig really wants that to get done. If it does happen, I think that'll be really interesting for the American League East because they may be the first division to ever get 3 teams into the postseason. And now it's time for our Tell Me He Didn't Just Say That quote of the week. And this week it comes from LSU football head coach Les Miles, who had an interesting quote about a player who decided to decommit from LSU and switch to Notre Dame. That'd be quarterback Gunnar Kiel, who's, depending on who you listen to, either the number 1 or 2 rated quarterback coming into this year's class. Of course, National Signing Day was on February 1st, and Gunnar Kiel officially switched to Notre Dame. This was Les Miles' quote on the switch. Les said, quote, "There was a gentleman from Indiana that thought about coming to the Bayou State. He did not necessarily have the chest and the ability to lead a program, so, you know." Come on, Les. Tell me he didn't just say that. Come on, man. You can't be so bitter about a kid changing schools that you're going to make an asinine statement like this. First of all, it shouldn't really have been a surprise because Gunnar Kiel had already switched once. He had originally committed to Indiana, which, of course, as you mentioned in your ridiculous quote that he was from Indiana, he originally switched from Indiana to LSU, and you were fine with that. But now that he switched from LSU to Notre Dame, which is in his home state of Indiana, you're not okay with that? Come on, Les. That's just not right. He's a young kid, unsure where he wants to go, decided after all that he wants to stay closer to home. You can't have a problem with that, and even if you do, you can't make it public. So tell me you didn't just say that. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for joining me once again. I am John Brockway. Subscribe to this channel right here on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook or on Twitter at Brock61184. And if you like what you see, please leave a comment. Until next week, I'm John Brockway.